Well, we wouldn't, actually, it was double overtime. Yeah, I think it was, might have been 0-0, and then in overtime, we both scored the first. They started at the 10,
Sure.
so they did it. We both scored. In the second round through, they scored, and then we didn't score. So they ended up winning. Tough one.
Yeah, that's all right.
It seemed like it went late.
Yeah, what's that?
Right? Did it go late?
Was
it the
well,
whole
yeah,
game?
we might have pushed the 8th grade late because 7th grade was first and we had the overtime, so I bet they got done pretty late then maybe for 8th grade. Yeah, I think 8th grade
Come on, hear the whistles at 7.
Good.
I remember it was dark, and I'm not used to
Yeah.
that dark.
Yep.
7th, 8th grade games or whatnot, so.
Yeah, I think they won. You know, in every grade you get kind of a mix. One grade will be pretty good and the next grade maybe not so good, so.
Alright, we've got 4, but someone, did you see who just walked
I
in?
didn't see who that
I
was.
didn't notice. I think there was someone.
You are good to go if you decide,
Okay.
we got a quorum. so.
We can just, if someone adds, okay. Alright, we'll call the meeting to order then. Any additions to and or approval of the agenda? Any additions, I guess? For you?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Hearing none, we'll go on to the visitors to be heard. Do you wanna?
You want me to speak now? I'm here for the tournament team discussion. Do you want me to wait till then, or do you want me to speak?
I think probably now,
Okay,
and then as we're talking about it, we can always.
Yeah.
If you need to, raise your hand and you can.
Yep.
Oh, we start? We're early.
Are we?
Well, 5 minutes.
I got 6:01.
I got 601 too.
I was like, normally the guy got a little playtime.
So I'm here for the tournament team discussion. I guess my name's John Van Hoop. I know most of you. Clint, not really familiar with you, but nice to meet you. Just a little background, grew up in Lennox, so I guys know that. I played baseball here since I was young, all the way up to amateur ball. I've been coaching in Lennox since 2018 with my oldest son. I am president of the LBSA, Lennox Baseball Softball Association, but these opinions I'm gonna give are solely of my own. I do not represent the LBSA, these are simply John Van Hoop's opinions. With the agenda that I read on the tournament team discussion, I do not think it's a good idea to pass either of those motions, either the amendments to the current rules or completely disbanding the tournament team altogether. Some of the, I guess, fallout, I personally think that will happen to the Lennox baseball program, community-wise, is the first one, you're gonna lose a lot of your primary resources, and that's even going down to the youngest ages of 6-year-olds and whatnot. From my experience, your tournament team, parents, families, they're some of your primary resources within the baseball community in Lennox. Whether that be volunteerism for helping program resources, volunteering at the fields to get them into top shape, and honestly, kind of financial donations and whatnot that come into play. Some of those primary donators are tournament team parents and or family. I think disbanding it altogether, you're gonna lose those resources to outside the community. Additional to that point, the resources of coaching. Well, I've coached, like I said, since 2018. The last year that I didn't coach this previous summer, but the previous year when I coached, 3 of our 4 coaches at the 10U level were tournament team parents. This past year, I believe 4 of the 4 12U coaches were tournament team parents, and 3 of the 4 10U coaches were tournament team parents. Those resources, the knowledge, the experience, the passion for baseball, I believe enforcing some of these rules and or disbanding it, you're gonna lose all those resources outside the community as well. Also, some limitations that I saw within the rule structure, I don't think it's in the best interest of the kids. One of the specific rule placement I saw in there was that the kid has to be a member of the Lennox community schools. I know one tournament team member that does not go to a Lennox community school, but he lives within Lennox. His friends are all within Lennox still. So we're just kind of segregating that group of just because you don't go to school within Lennox, now you're not under consideration for the team. I mean, last meeting that we had about tournament team, we talked about welcoming in those outside members of the community. If somebody moves to town, but they still go to Viber, Park, or whatever it is, they can't play baseball with their local community friends anymore. You know, and additionally, the resource of the coaches, for 90% of the coaches I've coached with out in Lennox Park and Rec, they have bigger interests than just winning games. They have a bigger interest of teaching these kids some life lessons, to making them better in the community, and the winning of the games tends to be afterthought. It gets heated, the discussion always gets heated when it comes around competitive tournament teams. But knowing the community like I do, and that coaching community like I do, nearly every one of them that I've coached with, they have the best interests of the kids in mind. And by disbanding the program altogether and or limiting that coaching ability that you have resourced to you, I don't think it's in the best interest of the kids, which I think a big portion of this discussion has gone away from, is the best interest of the kids. So I'll leave it at that. If you guys have any questions for me, I can take an hour if you think of any. I'll be in the crowd.
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Sounds good, thanks.
Do you want to talk, Joe?
Sure. Joe Reintz, rural chancellor, I guess is my address, but my two boys go to school in Lennox and both play baseball in Lennox, and I read the proposals, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word for it or not, and just a few things that I want to express is Lennox is not unlike any other community of our size. We have a chance with what you decide to do with this team to separate ourselves and give these kids an advantage on what they do through the game of baseball. I think by legislating or over-legislating rules for coaches, you are doing them a disservice. You cannot legislate for every instance and every occurrence that's going to happen to these kids and to these teams. You have to trust your coaches. You have to allow your coaches to coach. If you don't feel like that person is going to be a good coach and a good role model and representative to coach the boys, don't let them volunteer. Just blacklist them off the start of it if you don't think they're the right person for the job and you got somebody else better for the job. But like, if we're going to mandate that kids get playing time, a certain amount of playing time, there's so many rules, there's so many situations that come up. If a kid doesn't show up to practice, he just shows up to tournaments. If he's disrespectful to his coaches, his teammates, umpires, those types of things, there's disciplinary actions that can happen. And at the end of the day, if your kid is playing a role and not getting enough playing time, the answer to your child is get better. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. I've got two boys and they're at opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to athletic ability. One of them takes after their mom, one of them takes after me. I'll let you decide which one is which. But anyway, Nolan in football this year, terrible. Didn't know what he didn't know. I told the coach, he's mandated to play a quarter. If he doesn't figure it out, don't play him. He's not going to figure it out by just getting this given to him. He's got to earn it. And that's your approach to the game, your discipline, your work ethic. You're devaluing all of those things when you mandate, yes, they have to have this. Again, coaches do their best, In my opinion, the 10U team was put into a bad spot with too many kids last year. Again, can't go back and fix last year. I see that, 12 is kind of the number we're aiming at this year. I think that's still too many. I think a good compromise for that would be 11. And then you've got your 3 subs or whatever you want to call them, alternates. And if a kid got missed or had a bad tryout or whatever, and that coach wants that kid, great, he can bring up 12, he can bring up 13, he can bring up 14 if he wants. But let him, then again, have that expectation that if you're gonna bring those kids up, everybody's still gonna play, but allow coaches to coach. And you can set a standard in Lennox that nobody else is gonna set. And that's what I would like to see, I guess. And the other comment I would have is, not allowing kids to try out for 2 teams when they are maybe old enough to be a tweener in between those 2 teams, or they maybe have the ability to maybe play on the top team or the older team, but you were going to eliminate them if they try out for that team. I'll take my older son. I'm going to tell you right now, he's probably 10 through 15. That's a great motivating factor for me and my son to say, Mason, if you want to be on that 12U team, you better work your butt off all winter long. You better get in the cage, you better get on the mound, you better pitch, you better get better. I also firmly believe in my kids playing for the school and the town that they live in. I want my kids wearing a Lennox jersey. I don't want them wearing a Boss's Pizza jersey or whatever travel team cashes my check from wherever. It should mean something that they can play for the town that they're in. And I can understand the point that there may be a slight advantage for a kid that goes to 2 tryouts. I don't know why we would want to limit kids that can play on the 10U team from trying out to be better. To take away that carrot prod, if you will, of competitiveness, to go out and try to play at a level higher than what they are, because that's how they're going to get better. They need that competition. It's not about winning, but you need competition. Competition is what drives you as an athlete. If you take that away, you simply have rec ball. And rec ball is great, and I didn't get here in time for all of John's talk, but I do think if you take the competitive stuff away, it will be devastating to the rec league in Lennox. If you decide to take all these kids that want to play travel ball away, I'm going to say 75% of them probably don't end up playing in the rec league. And that really hurts it for the kids that are in that part, because who are they going to be playing against? The Cantons, the Parkers, where these kids that are on their travel teams are still playing rec. They're going to go get probably beat every night by quite handily, quite one-sidedly. It's not going to be any fun for them. They're not going to stick it out, and they're going to probably find something to do other than play baseball all summer. Again, happy to answer any questions if you have any, but thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to last month's minutes.
Board-
Right?
Yeah, board members, there's also minutes in there from the committee meeting we had in September, so that's also for review and approval. Technically, the committee needs to approve that if we're going to move forward, but I think making sure that we have your review of that is helpful.
Are you talking the update to the tournament? Okay.
This is for the Park and Rec staffing position meeting.
Okay,
So there'll be 2 of them in there.
Yeah.
this one, so there's nothing to review, I have no idea. It says people's names and a meeting was had, but there's nothing for me to,
Which one is that?
the manager.
Just says discussion.
It says discussion, executive meeting, out of executive meeting, closed meeting, there's nothing, so there's nothing to even review.
That's all we talked about.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
I just have to sign. But
But how do we approve
probably
someone, we
letting-
have no idea?
we're probably
You're not
letting you
approving
know.
Okay, that's what I was
meeting
wondering.
was had.
I was just wondering, I was like, I have no idea what I'm approving, so I'm not gonna like approve something I have no idea.
Again, minutes are just a recording of what happened, that there was a meeting, there was discussion, it's not.
Gotcha, just wanted to make sure, I didn't know what was going on.
This one, I don't know how much that is, it has me listed on here and I was not here, so I don't know if we need to correct that for Who is my third person then?
Sarah,
Oh,
Jesse
Sarah.
wasn't either.
Sarah was there?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You weren't here.
No,
were you?
no, I wasn't there.
I can get
Yeah,
back.
Sarah, Sailor, and me.
I don't know why I thought it was you, Christie. That's
So
right.
can I cross that off on here then, and?
Committee meetings.
That's for the
Or
park
wait,
board
I'm
meeting.
sorry, that was on,
No, that was for the special.
Okay.
one.
Yeah, if it's for the park board meeting, don't sign, we'll just amend them. I just sign it next month.
or, okay, so the park board meeting, Chrissy wasn't here?
No, I'm talking
This was,
about.
this was for the special.
Oh, this is
meeting.
off,
She was talking about the special.
The special.
The committee.
Yeah.
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 that doesn't have your name on it, does it? Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's,
does.
sorry, my bad.
Or, and what's the other one? Or is it just in our regular minutes?
So you've got the regular minutes from September 18th, and you've got the committee meeting from September 23.
Okay, and then so, and this is the proposed,
Those are the policies, yep.
and so, are we gonna address these, or do I?
Yep, that's item
There is.
A under old business.
Okay.
Are these,
Then I haven't,
are these minutes from September 18th? This one says August, so
I don't see a September 18th either.
maybe the date just didn't get changed? Is that, or we got the wrong ones, one of the two?
Yeah, there's two August 21st for me. But,
yeah, I just have an August one.
That's just kind of a review of what we had in the meeting, right?
These are. Yeah, but we should be looking at September. These are the current minutes.
No?
These are from August 21st.
Yeah, they're August minutes.
I mean, this is tonight.
Right,
Right.
the staple
Yeah,
one.
these are August 21st.
This is August.
oh, sorry.
Sorry,
I'm trying to pull it up. I
it's
can't
not
remember.
working. You know, it's-
Here we go.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's August as well.
No, I didn't,
It's not a big deal to do it next meeting
Okay.
though.
okay, so move on to the next.
Yep.
We don't have to approve any of these old
We'll
ones.
just do it at the next one.
Okay. All right, moving on then, recreation manager report.
Just a few updates here. Did discuss last night with the council, having Trey stay on temporarily. So I did email him this morning and ask if there are a few things that we can get wrapped up by December 1st, because I think he starts coaching basketball shortly after that. So I think once we get into early, mid-December, we're gonna start, he's got his attention on that, rightly so. So it would be inventory, and then setting up some of the rec leagues for next spring, so that when we get to January, we can just push go and get at it. Did approve the batting cage proposal from LBSA last night, with city council, so that's good to go. And then we did hold a committee meeting on the 23rd to talk about staffing in Parks and Rec, coming to the realization that we can hold those meetings for a long time and probably not get real far. And we're gonna get to February and still not have anybody hired for this position, whatever it is. So, I'm gonna go ahead and create a job description for a full-time position, get it ready for posting, figure out what the org chart looks like, and, go from there. So we'll probably have that up at the next city council meeting on the 28th, October 28th. So, if we can get that done in a hurry, then we can start getting some interviews done. Hopefully fill the position as quickly as possible.
Okay, any questions?
At the meeting last night, when they approved the batting cage project, was it the project or the funding or both?
Both, but we need to figure out the location. So we need to stake that out, make sure it's in a place that's gonna work for us, so. When you guys are ready to run, I think let's visit with Drew and find out where we're gonna put it, and then we'll stake it out when we set it.
Okay, ready to move on? Okay, moving on to old business, tournament teams.
Board members, you have in front of you, at your request, policy for the tournament teams amended to include certain provisions. I include two versions. Of course, you know, version 2 is where I stand and will always stand, not having tournament teams. Version 1 incorporates the discussion from the last park board meeting. 1 team per age group, 12 athletes and 3 backups, some clarification on tryouts, roster batting, a policy for use of backup athletes, just clarifying, making it a little clearer what we're covering for costs on the city side, and that complaints would be submitted to investigated by the park board. So this is all from chapter 6 of those policies. I think we need to, there was another section of policy that mentioned tournament teams that I think we just need to figure out. I think we just need to clean that up a little bit. It should reflect whatever this policy is. So every year in the fall, we go through all our policies and review them and amend them as needed. I think that'll probably happen when we do that later on this fall. In the likely event that you don't take my recommendation on the tournament teams, I want to be clear that future complaints would be the responsibility of the park board alone. I'm not going to participate in future investigations unless we're directed so by the city council. I think this is ill-advised, and I think the shift in policy should be an indication of my strength of that recommendation.
So there's two versions then, one obviously that the city wouldn't take on the tournament teams, and the other is the recommendations for the changes, right?
Yes,
With
yep,
red
so the
updates.
one that has some black on it and some red,
Yeah,
that's the one that incorporates the changes that the park board directed at the last meeting.
okay,
The one that is mostly red, entirely red,
yeah,
crosses out the entire thing and just says we don't want to do it.
gotcha.
So what's as far as the complaint procedures go, currently the process is what?
It comes to the city administrator or park or recreation manager. We report it to the park board, but we investigate and move from there.
So if we're moving forward on a parks, full-time, potentially park and rec employee, why would it be not brought to them first and then to the board?
I'm not tying my employees to this policy.
Does that mean any issues they would need to come and sit here in front of us?
Not necessarily. I think you could form an ad hoc committee, for example, or typically it would be handled in here, but you could do. There's a couple different ways you could address it. One of them would just to have a committee of 2 that investigate it. You could do chair and do we have a vice chair?
I think,
No.
No, it's chair. So you could do chair and secretary, for example. The officers of the park board could be assigned to investigate it, I suppose.
I think, I guess looking at it, I don't know, that what's drawn up looks fairly good. I would say that what you changed and added just from what we talked about last time. I would think that the complaints would be fairly limited. I mean, I think this addresses a majority of what kind of occurred and then what could happen, I guess. We've been in it with my younger son Reed's done it 3 years now on the travel team, 2 with 10U, 1 with 12U. And I would say this kind of, the stuff that wasn't covered in here before is where a lot of that stuff would fester, as we've talked about in the past, just with, number of players, playing time, whatever it is. Those are things you heard talked about, or, where people would get a little worked up on stuff. And that's just always the case. I don't think that's a Lennox thing. I think that's wherever you go, you see, you can, youth sports, it's pretty common. But I feel like just a lot of this stuff just lays out, and I don't think it's an overreach, but just some basic stuff that we talked about and what we've kind of seen from some of the other programs, and would, my feeling is eliminate a lot of the stuff that had come up, really address most of that.
So
I think it addresses all the complaints that came up that last time at that first meeting.
Yeah, I watched you that meeting a couple times just to make sure we were, it was tough because we had multiple items that were brought up, and some of it was coming from the crowd, some of it was directed up here.
Yep.
But what we tried to do was make sure that we're incorporating whatever the park board was in general saying, yeah, we think it's a good idea, we should address that in the policy.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's really what's incorporated here.
And I think in the spot where it's open to any child residing in a community that is a part of the Lennox School District. I don't think the child has to go to the Lennox School District. Because there's homeschool kids who live in Lennox, who pay Lennox taxes, who should be able to play in that.
My question
That
about
wasn't
that-
a change in the policy.
No, I know it wasn't a change, but
I think
yeah.
we should clarify.
I think we
that.
should, right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, cause
'Cause
that's
we-
in black, it's not in red, so that must
Right.
have been existing.
That's how it was.
We've allowed other towns since I've been here,
Yeah.
we made that change.
And I think that was up to the park board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it kind of depended on numbers, but usually it would always work out. Like, if we have one team with 15 kids, it might not be the best idea.
But that's not
to-
for tournament teams, though.
This is just.
This is
That was
tournament.
just
You're
for,
talking parks and
that's
Rec.
Oh,
just
true,
for,
yeah.
Yeah, this is.
But
just
if-
tournament teams.
But we made the rule, if they play rec, they're also eligible then for tournament teams.
So
Do
they're
we
on
want
the
to
team
amend this to
playing, right?
make clear that's any child residing
Yeah.
within a district boundary?
I think so.
Is that what we want?
And if it's somebody from outside, then through approval.
Case by case
Yeah,
basis.
right.
The other thing that I appreciate what Joe, and John said about the Parks and Rec. I think it would really, we talked about this in the past already, but those coaches and the players, and it's so vital, to have them as a part of it. If they were to split off, I think it'd really hurt the rec program and the kids that participate. So I think that's huge, like they both mentioned, as well. I think the thing that came up about the disciplinary thing that Joe had mentioned, I think if you put that, that's the one thing that maybe isn't in here with the playing time. If there was, a disciplinary action, you could add that if, that could affect the playing time if if one of the players is under a disciplinary action for some reason by the coach.
Yep.
And that would, then that would be, otherwise it kind of encompasses I think what now if you're on these tournament teams, it should be, it's not the rec team, so it should be the best players.
Play to win.
Yeah, and it should be the best 12 or whatever number we settle on. It should be so they should all be fairly competitive. It's not like you should have a huge drop off where if you put somebody in, now the team is
And I do
significantly
think,
hurt or
Right.
something.
I do think we kind of talked 11 up to 12.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't always gonna be 12, maybe?
Can we put
And
that
maybe you
7?
guys can remind me, but I thought we said,
I would pick a number.
there.
Yeah, you don't wanna have any
I would pick a
So
number.
I was gonna actually say the same thing. I think we landed on 11. I mean, there's kind of talk between the two, but based on feedback and just the information we have, I think 11 is kind of where we landed.
The only thing I would
Because we
say,
have 3 backups.
yeah, you have three
Well, but you bat 10, I mean, you usually bat 10 no matter what already.
I think this says bat, roster bat,
Mm-hmm.
besides
Tournament
state.
is
Oh,
state,
yeah.
So that would,
Yeah, I don't know what you guys, it sounded like you removed teams just to one team, where there was 2 teams for 12U, and was there 2 for 10, or 1 for 10U, 2 for 12U this last year, I believe it
I
was?
think
There was only, 2 for
1 for
12.
10.
The year before, it was the other way around.
So it sounded like to me, you make it 12 if you only have one team to ensure
You got backups.
yeah, you got everybody on,
And the three,
if you have 2 teams,
and
then
the 3 alternates practice with the team, travel with the team, if they want.
If they want,
Because if
yeah.
somebody gets hurt, you can pull up one of those
Yeah.
kids. It would be up to the kids on that, if they wanna go or not.
yeah, yep. Yeah, I don't think they've traditionally traveled, but I think they've practiced a lot of times with them, because obviously they didn't wanna go if they didn't think they were gonna
Right,
play,
right,
and
right.
waste their weekend.
So, but if
But
you
if
know,
they're
if you
called for
know,
play, then they're
Yes.
traveling.
If you're a backup and you accept that position, if you will, I think that you should be there practicing.
Yeah.
so that you're ready to
Right.
go with the team.
Right, know what's going on, absolutely.
One, I think Joe maybe mentioned it, that, you know, there's, I think a fair point that we can keep adding to this policy for page upon page upon page, and there are still going to be issues. So, you know, it's not gonna be perfect.
Yeah,
Well, and to the point of, you know, the public speaking, I guess, I don't think our purpose here, or we could all agree that we don't wanna get super restrictive here. It's kind of some basic rules that are just guiding.
And to me, when I was doing the research, it wouldn't affect most of the teams that we've had in the past few years. A lot of them roster batted most of the time. They were playing, you know, a lot of people were playing positions on the field. I don't know that it's gonna affect that many people.
So 11 or 12?
I think, well, I guess I don't know about the whatever bigger teams are, I personally think that we've heard a lot of 11 thrown out there. And if we're saying that they're gonna roster bat
And then you'll have 3 backups.
and 2 backups.
the backups, yeah, they wouldn't play unless they were needed. The
Right.
only thing I guess, I don't know, I'm maybe even curious those guys' opinion, but if you only have one team, then maybe that's where you go 12, because there's not a second team, a 12 on it, but maybe not, I don't know what the right answer is there. 11 or 12.
So a few years ago, we opened up to the second team. Are we against that B team kinda?
I thought that was the discussion from last meeting.
That was the discussion
Yeah.
last meeting.
Just have one.
Cause I don't know, I mean, if you've got a group of people that wanna play on a B team,
They can go on their own and go.
they can,
Yeah.
but why not provide an opportunity if?
Because you can't provide an opportunity to everybody at all times. You have to you have to set what you're gonna have for the tournament team. Now, if this was a rec program, yes, then anybody who wanted to play can put a team together and play. But if you're gonna have the tournament team, where you're gonna have the best team, and you're gonna play to win. So off of our meeting, that was the number one thing that everybody that came up to say is, this is to win, this is to win, this is to win. If you're gonna do that, you have one team to win, let them go play.
But we've done it for the last 2 years.
Right, but that,
And we've had no issues with it.
there was
I mean,
lots of issues last year.
What?
We had a whole meeting about it. No, I mean, just issues because of kids going on, you have one less
Because
team,
one
that's
player
one
got
less,
moved up.
when you have one
That's
less
not a
team,
lot of
that's,
issues.
you have one less team, that's that many people to not have issues with.
So I guess my thing is, how do you determine that? It just depends on how many people show up for tryouts?
It's tryouts. Just,
Or like
it
how
would
do
be
you?
just like club, like any of these club sports that, you know, the softball world that I'm familiar with. There's tryouts for every one of the clubs. They pick the kids they want, they cut the rest. Small roster, they go. It is what it is.
No, I mean,
But I don't
two
think
teams,
that
I'm saying
matches
that
with-
would be determined.
Having a tournament team doesn't match our city's philosophy, period.
If we're giving opportunity, it does.
To some, but not to others. Because you may have a parent whose
But
kid,
you're the one taking away an opportunity
well,
for
have
a
a,
B team.
but I'm just saying, then you have a kid who's not good enough to make the B team, but their parent thinks they're good enough to make the B team, and then that parent's a very loud squeaky wheel. It's the same, then you're including another person in to get disruption and cause chaos.
How is that different than 10 people not making the A
Because
team?
now you're dealing with
making
20
the-
parents.
All of them that try out could talk to you eventually about not making the team.
Right, but I'm just saying.
Whether
But
they're
it's
on an
there's
A or
a, there's a
B team.
lot less discrepancy between the top 12 and then after. You get into that next group and you get from 15 and beyond, a lot of those kids are very similar. So when we had the tryouts last year, the guy trying out, he's the last 4 people, he couldn't pick between them because they were all the same. That's what you eliminate.
Well, and what's
But
the
if you have a
cutoff?
B team and
The
there's
B
enough
team
for a
kid,
B
no,
team,
the B team, the last 4 of the B team, he couldn't count between them, so he picked 2 of them. there's two that could have made it that were just as good, but he had to just pick.
The thing I don't like
That's-
about having more than one team or having a B team is that it should be, in my opinion, kind of black or white. So like, what's the cutoff? So if you have 22 kids, then they all make it because you have an A and a B team and everyone wants to play, because that's not really trying out then, that's just two teams.
It's the same with one team though. If you
Yeah.
had 11 kids try out, all 11 kids are gonna make the team.
And the B team is
Right.
kind of if you try out, the B team is kind of the rec, you kind of play rec if you don't make the travel. Cleans it up, probably makes it simpler, to just having.
Because they'll still play, they'll play rec.
You guys just had one 10U, right? But there was 2 12
Last year, yeah.
last year. I wanna say one of the, and I don't know, don't quote me, but I wanna say that one of them was saying that 12U, that second team just had some struggles or whatever with different things at tournaments or whatever.
But,
So yeah, I don't know if you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I can just provide some opinion on that. Essentially, you're never gonna make everybody happy.
Right.
Absolutely not.
I understand. You're providing everybody the opportunity by trying out.
Yes.
My main concern is putting too many restrictions in place. This is another restriction you're putting in place, not allowing, my primary emphasis is the coaches to coach. So by putting just another regulation in place of we have to have one team, you're tying hands. Because the instance came up 2 years ago where we had 24 kids or whatever it was at 10U. Perfect scenario for two teams. You write stuff in place, you have to follow those rules. If you don't write it in place, that's why we have a city program, Parks and Rec manager. He can make those decisions. Don't write the rules. Allow your experienced people to make the decisions and audible off of how things may have always been. So I don't know if I really made that clear, but I would hope you would dismiss both of these changes and continue to work with your coaches on what are the right changes that we make. Do we keep it broad? Do we keep it open? Is there always gonna be a pissed off parent? Yes. I guarantee no matter what you decide today, there will be somebody who does not agree with it. So back to the point that I would hope you would not tie hands of your community members and yourselves by putting too many rules in place, which is what I think is kind of this resolving into.
So, a question for you.
Sure.
Too many rules, can you
Yep.
point the rules that you think are too many?
Or what's too restrictive?
Yes, I want your opinion on what's too many and what's restrictive. Because what it sounds like is no rules, and you can't do that, that's a liability. You have to have guidelines,
If
city-wise. You have to-
city-wise, yes, I understand you have to have guidelines. I mean, the way we've done it is you try out and you can put a restriction on the amount of players, 11, 12 players, and this comes from a coaching perspective. Whatever you decide, 11, 12 players for the first team, and it's up for Park and Rec discussion after that. Okay, and allow the coach to pick up additional players that didn't make the tournament team from the rec program. So, I think that's one of the very limitations you can put on there.
The ones that tried out or the ones that didn't try out?
I would say it wants to try it out, but once again, we're tying our hands with rules. Okay?
So off of that scenario,
Yep.
and I get what you're saying, so you've got a player, and they don't try out, and they don't do any of it. And
The coach
then,
thinks they're really good.
and so then it's the coach's brother's kid, pulls him on, and this kid's not very good at all, takes a spot of somebody that should be on there, and there's no rules stating you can't do that.
And that's where the Park and Rec manager should use the integrity of the coach. Okay, ask the
but
coach,
you-
is that?
But you don't know that.
The authority of the park and rec manager to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think a big part of this, we just tried to put a couple things in place because of all the people that came and had concerns that there was nothing, at the original meeting. So I think that's kind of the goal. And not, like he's saying, not to over restrict. But a lot of this has already been done for the most part, but there were things that came up where it wasn't done at certain times and then
Tweaked.
parents don't, or people don't know what's what, we're just trying to eliminate that.
We're really trying to put a rule in place for every scenario, which we can do. I think there's gotta be some flexibility within it to make those decisions when they happen. I know there's gonna be the coach that only cares about winning and says, well, there's nothing saying I can't. Okay, that's fine, there's nothing saying that you can't coach next year either, because your integrity got in the way of you actually being good for the program.
But what if the coach's kid has no more years left? What's the harm of them doing that? They don't care. They're done. They're out. They're not coaching anymore anyways.
Yeah, there is. And
But
then-
there's no
Yeah.
There's no
recourse.
going back for
Right.
that
Correct, so
team.
there's no recourse there.
So that's why you have to have something where you can take care of that.
I'm just cautioning you guys,
Yeah.
put too much in place. It's going to ruin the program more than maybe one kid getting passed up for an opportunity.
But what's in place? Roster batting? Other than that, what else is?
Everything else the same.
That's the flexibility of the coach. I have helped coach a lot
But
of tournaments, and
other than-
99% of the tournaments have been roster batted, besides state tournaments primarily. So that really hasn't changed much from how the course of action already is. But
Right,
you
and I
tie
think-
your hands by
I
putting it
think-
in there.
So, in order to have these tournament teams support the mission of the park board that we have kind of all talked about, the roster batting, the playing, the 3 outs, those are the things that kind of help tie us to support the tournament teams through the city of Lennox, versus just, getting rid of them, for example. So I haven't heard one park board member, much to Nate's dismay, want to get rid of the tournament teams.
Yeah, well, we are trying.
Yeah, not for lack of trying. But I don't think that anyone here on any board member, I haven't heard one board member say that, so I don't think that. But I think the compromise is if we're going to try and align them with our Park and Rec mission to, provide opportunities for the kids in our community, like that's kind of the compromise, is like,
There's a few guidelines.
there's a few guidelines.
Yeah.
And I don't,
I
this
think-
is,
I've been recommending no tournament teams for. I'm not under any impression that.
I appreciate what he's saying, and so I think you wanna limit, like, you just want a couple things in place, like you're saying, so
Right.
the opportunity.
Giant
But if you start just writing page after page and we're
Yeah,
telling them they
you
gotta do
can't do
this, they
that.
gotta do that, then that's not good
Which
either.
is a trap we found ourselves in before.
Yes.
Right.
Every year, we better make a new rule about that, we better make a new rule about that. And
Yep,
pretty soon you've regulated the whole
Now
thing
you
to
just
the
got
hilt. And
Yeah.
I do feel like restricting to one team is kind of like the opposite end of the spectrum, like with what we did with softball last year. Like we gave every team the opportunity to go play in tournaments if they wanted to,
But that's right.
but they still gotta go play in tournaments. And why did we
Yeah.
let them do that? So that way they could get tournament experience. Because they're not gonna get better if they don't go play. So if we're gonna restrict, like
could you do it based off of how many sign up for the tryout, and if it's over a certain number, then we'll oblige a second team possibility, if it's under,
I think,
Yeah.
20,
one-
then we're
one
just
of the
doing
things
one.
We need to look at, and we wanted to get as many kids in those softball tournaments this year as possible, because this is our first time doing it, we wanted to really make it, get a home run, so to speak. It does change, we do have to think about what these tournaments cost as well, because they are an expense, so.
The only
Could
last
we-
opinion I would have as a coach is reconsider the trying out for both teams. Because that affects very few kids. Your birthday, essentially, this is speaking baseball wise, your birthday essentially has to be in the month of January. And for instance, Joe's son, his birthday's in the month of January, he's right on the fringe of that 12U team. Okay, he doesn't quite make it. He's really gonna help that 10-year team, and that 10-year team would kill to have him on the team.
Instead of
So I
not
would-
getting
I
to
would-
play at all.
Exactly. He's not gonna get to play at all, and we get pushed out of the community, just because he was made to make a choice. Like, I would really consider letting him, okay, try it out for 12U, he ranks number 14, by the tenure, he ranks number 1. I would really consider that the change to that. If you don't have any questions.
One other comment on the second team, if there are enough kids, is that really, and I'll use this term twice in one night, carrot prod for having those kids play rec. Because if you don't have a travel team for those kids through Lennox, I don't think they would be required to play rec necessarily. They could just do whatever they want. So now there's your second 12 or 11 or whatever best kids that may or may not be playing on the rec league teams and helping those kids that need assistance in developing as well. So, and I understand it's money wise, but I will tell you this, if it comes down to money, I will find a business that will sponsor the tournament fees for any kid in Lennox, for any age, any gender, I don't care. I would not let a tournament fee be the reason a kid can't play in a tournament. So just, again, I understand you gotta cut it off somewhere, but if you just say one team and there's 30 kids that try out, and these 11 make it, and these 19 are probably gonna make another team regardless, because they wanna play more than just rec. Well, they might just go play tournaments every weekend and not play rec because they think they're getting better competition there and so on and so forth too. So that's the slippery slope there, just to.
I would, yeah, I appreciate that. I would say it drops off, especially in the pitching.
Sure.
Once you get past that, and I think that was a struggle for the second team, was having the pitching to go to tournaments and actually play, where in rec you could play, but in the second 19 kids,
It gets real.
it starts to get thin, and all the pitchers go on the first team.
Yeah.
All the pitchers, so if you don't have it, that's what makes it a challenge, I would say.
But if people are willing to go play, it still makes them better. I know it.
So
I know
if
they
people
might
are-
take
get that.
lumps,
I get
but
If
they're
people are
gonna,
willing to go play, then have the rec team have the ability to go to a tournament and let them go play.
do we not allow that?
They can, that's what I'm saying. But if they wanna go play, they can go play. We're not stopping them.
But why not just do it the way we've been doing it with the
But
second tournament?
It'd be the same thing, except for they wouldn't have to try out. That second team then could be all managed by the manager and figured out that way as the farm system for the other teams to get them
So,
better.
I think
And then
there's a
have this,
difference.
and then have the city pay for their tournament things for
So,
that second. So you'd have two baseball teams, possibly. You could have the B would not be a tried out tournament team, but it would be the B team, and they could still go if they want. That's fine, but they're not the tournament team. Because not everybody gets to win. Not everybody gets to be the guy. They don't. I tell kids that every Friday night.
but they're
Not
probably
everybody gets
not
to make
gonna
the
go
tackle.
win, they're probably gonna go and try to get better. And it's different than, okay, so a tournament team with the second 10, 11, 12 best players compared to one of the rec teams.
No, I'm saying that next 10, 12 players, that will be a rec team, and that team can go to tournaments. That same group of kids, if they wanna play that bad, and if they wanna get better, they'll be a rec team, but then they can still go to tournaments as that 10, 12 group of people. They're just not the B tournament team.
But
So then you don't have the expectations to put on them. You let the coach figure it out. So you have another group, and they can go do everything the other group does, but they don't have to make the tryouts. They don't have, you figure it out. They can go do everything else. They have every opportunity to do everything the team does. They just don't have the title of tournament team. So then that way they don't have to try out and get placed.
So is that a
But-
second coach then? Or
It would be a second team. It'd be a complete second team.
Does that
But they-
conflict
So
with
I don't
having different
understand.
teams?
How- who
that's-
picks it?
Huh?
Who picks it?
Doesn't that?
Well,
conflict with
off in
having
here it
different
says that
selection now?
that we pick them, is what it says in here.
I would-
So we're doing everything except officially saying that they're a tournament team? What's the?
They don't have to
point
do
of that?
tryouts, because for the cost of that,
How do we pick them if they're not trying out?
they don't have to do a non-city tryout with the people coming in. You can have the managers pick that next group, because they can pick the kids,
But
because
they
they
still
see the
might go to
kids.
the regular tryout.
They can,
So we'll still be on the what, they'll
yes,
still
and you're
be
right, and if they
seeing-
go to the other tryout, you'll see them there too.
feel like it's getting a little convoluted.
Yeah.
In my
We're,
opinion.
we're already paying someone to evaluate, let them pick the next team.
Well, I think you're gonna know where you're at when you have a sign up for the teams, like if you have 24
Yeah.
that sign up for a tryout, then you potentially have
And-
2 teams or whatever, and then you can look at that. Also I would say, just from thinking about it this last year, West Central and Dells both had B teams had second teams from what I remember that were in the state tournament actually as well.
Central at 4 and 10
Yeah, so they're comparable size, comparable programs to us, and they're doing that as well.
With the exception that neither of those teams are sponsored by the city.
The city.
Well, but is
They're
there
all privately
anything that
funded.
says if you're on a tournament team, throw in 25 more, $50 or something to help pay for?
Well, there are some tournament teams that the parents will get together and
Do
pay for extra
additional.
tournaments.
But I mean, to let everyone have, not, like if we have a second team and we're talking about how tournament fees are getting high, is there anything that says we can't just say, okay, you wanna be on the tournament team, it's an extra so many, $50
I think
to
you're
help
limiting it to people with
offset.
the resources to.
Yeah.
with, okay?
If
think
we've
the-
made this work in the past, then and if people who have kids in baseball are in a group, then I guess we just play it by ear by how many kids try out.
Yeah,
Like,
sign up,
I
sign
could
up.
be
Like, I'm just going off
convinced by
of
that doesn't bother me.
the 10U B team 2 years ago. I think there was enough kids, they had, here's a second option, here's the number of kids. As long as these kids wanna make a team and they have a coach,
Yeah.
we
So are
supported
Are we
them.
going to have unlimited numbers of tournament teams?
No, I don't think it would come to that.
We've never had,
Because we will have to look at what registration looks like.
Yeah,
if-
yeah.
if we're going to-
At some point, you can have 3 teams then, and then what are we gonna say? Well, there was enough kids, we gotta let them play. There was enough kids, and there's a coach.
If it comes to it, I think there's people that would support, financially, and when it gets to 3, we can talk, I mean, I don't know that we're getting there that anytime soon. Because I think this 12U, 10U group, kind of where they're gonna be 12U next year, has kind of been the bigger group of tryouts,
And that's
you know, in terms of numbers, and they had 2 extra after the second team, I think.
But if I'm not mistaken, is not the amount of kids, younger kids in Lennox now considerably higher than the amount of kids running through the park and rec programs from people moving in with, so when I was talking to,
No, because you're not seeing that
We-
reflected at the.
We had
school
2
level yet.
kindergarten teachers this year.
So-
yeah, no, I was talking 3, 4, no, they're not in school yet, but that's what so I was talking to one of the teachers who said, kids who will be coming up, we're not even close to the amount of teachers we're gonna need. There's that many younger kids.
Well, we're
I don't know.
Enrollment.
That's not my,
enrollment
I don't know.
Enrolling K-5 has really, I mean,
Right.
if anything, it's gone down just
Yeah.
a little bit. It's
We're
high school, middle school.
30 under where we wanted to be.
Well-
So,
Okay,
I have no idea on that.
And there again, we're talking 3 to 5 years in the future,
Yeah.
so we can kind of see how things go. It's not necessarily an issue that we need to deal with right now, and I think the teams that we're kind of talking about that has had 2 teams a couple times would be like my daughters, we have kids in that grade, they've always, from junior kindergarten, every single year have had to have an extra teacher, an extra class, because there's a lot of them, for whatever reason that year.
I mean, right now, the 4th grade in Lennox has 2 teachers, 3rd grade 3, 2nd grade 3, 1st grade 3, kindergarten 2, back to 2. So I mean,
I don't know, you could potentially have that, as an option, or we could visit that when it comes up, we see the registration numbers, could you wait until then and see where the numbers are at? But if you have at least 22, signed up for the tryout, then you at least have 2 teams. If you don't have 22, or it's less than 20, because I think was it the 12? No, was it the 10U? I can't remember which age group, but one of them, didn't have enough for 2 teams. It's just a certain, you come in that certain age group, like you said, where there's a influx of kids at that group. and gives them an option. It makes it, I think, a challenge, like I said, what I've heard from others is just the pitching makes it hard to compete, but we see other communities having second teams in these tournaments as well, of similar size.
I mean, I think the 10U B team last year, I don't think they won a game. Maybe had a couple where they had a chance to win, but they had success this year. And, you know, like,
Building up.
there were a lot of balls thrown, I know that, from the one tournament I watched.
And if I'm not mistaken, one of the schools that was mentioned, they had multiple teams in the tournament. They had a few kids from other communities brought in to pitch on their squads that were recruited in, because that's what they do, and they're not town affiliated, so they can do whatever they want.
Oh, gotcha.
That makes it more competitive. They're
Yeah.
like, they go find a kid, if you're gonna come, that's how you can have 4 teams in the tournament, is you go and be like, hey, well, you got jerseys, uniforms, we'll take care of all your fees, we got all this covered, just come and play.
Yeah.
So, that happens.
Like West Central has 4, and I'm pretty sure there's like rules in place on, they have to play, rec ball or whatever.
A lot of them have some,
So,
I know Del Rapids does.
If they're picking guys up like that,
But
they're
there's-
just playing rec ball with them and.
But there's no rule in place for them that's saying that they can't grab a kid from outside the community. They still can come and play rec ball and go up. There's no rule that says you can't go find a kid and say, come in and play.
Well, technically, we're allowing that too.
Right, but they can do it at the expense of somebody else, and there's nobody gonna say nothing. They can bring in a pitcher that will knock somebody else off the B team now, because the A team kid goes down and he goes up there. We wouldn't do that.
We allow kids from other towns.
In our school district. I'm talking about,
There's a rule right here. Once registration is closed, the park board will make a decision in consultation with coaches as to whether teams would be able to accept other athletes.
that's
from
whether
other
they'll be
communities.
able to with the discussion. They just do it. They don't discuss, they just do it.
Did we ever discuss it this year?
Yeah, we did, if there's somebody that comes in and there's a team that's
I don't
willing,
think we did.
but if if it's close with numbers, then we discuss it. If somebody wants to come in, if they were like, because Trey would be like, so-and-so wants to come in and play, this team only has so many numbers, it'll work out. Sounds great. Trey mentioned that.
This probably doesn't matter anyway. This isn't part of that discussion, so let's just.
Would it make
Move
sense
on.
just to see registration numbers and then discuss it from there? If you're gonna have one for one age group,
Or if we
You know,
have to
1
have
year.
verbiage, can we say up to
Just like
2
here.
teams? Like up to 2 teams?
If numbers.
You can do any number of things, I just need to know.
Do we even have to put anything? Just take that
Well, it
out
says-
and
each team.
we'll make that decision?
Can we just say the number of tournament teams for each age group will be determined by the Park and Rec Board based on tryout numbers,
Sign-ups.
interest, signups, whatever you want to say.
Registrations for trials,
Registration for
yeah,
tryouts.
sure.
Because there could very well be 23 kids, but there might be 4 that don't want to play on the B team, and now you don't have a B team, and that's
Yeah,
fine,
yeah,
if we don't have enough at that point.
I think you have to leave it a little bit open-ended.
just see on a case-by-case basis there, and like you said, how it goes, I guess. And then the other thing about the disciplinary thing, Nate, I think is important too, like we mentioned about, there's a discipline issue as far as, but watching most of this, you know, a lot of them did roster bad and stuff, but then there was, you know, some of that not going on, and that's where we heard the issue, so I don't think it's a bad thing. If you make that team, you should be at that level of play. It shouldn't be a big drop off. You shouldn't have one kid. It's not like a rec team where you're all over
Right.
the board. This is these are supposed to be your top kids on the team.
I know.
We don't talk about it in this chapter, it's in a different chapter, I believe, so I'll try and see what we have.
I know when we talked last month about restricting them to one tryout, but then we thought that issue was resolved if we were only gonna have one team. So I feel like that's something we need to revisit then if we're going to continue to have more than one team. Because anywhere you go, like go to Sioux Falls, your kid can try out for 15 different teams. and then they can choose to go with whatever one will accept them if that team fits with their goals. I don't think, like in this situation, where you have a kid who could potentially make this better team, but he doesn't get to play travel ball at all because he didn't make that tryout.
So devil's advocate, wouldn't everyone try out for the older team just to see then, and the younger team? Wouldn't
But they're
everyone
all
do
at
it?
one tryout anyways, right? Or is it separate?
It's separate.
It's separate for age
Age
groups.
Yeah.
And
It does
again,
open a little bit of can of worms there.
It
but-
doesn't, like, to me, like, this is, again, this is like not that big a deal. And we kind of like discuss it a lot, but like, theoretically, that could happen, right? Like, every 10-year-old could be like, well, I'm gonna see if I can get on the 12-year-old team. So, and maybe that's not a big deal, I don't know.
You'd probably need more slots, would be the only thing. You know, like if you've got 30 kids trying out, or 40, let's say, trying out for the 12U team, because all the 10U team decides to do it too, and you'd probably have to double up how many 12U slots you have.
So then if you had,
Like you said, devil advocate, I don't think you're gonna get that because 10-year-olds are gonna wanna play with their friends. They're not gonna wanna play with the
So,
older kids. I mean,
like-
for the majority.
then can some 10U take 12U spots where those kids then get bumped and don't even make the team, would make the team if those 10U would stay in their age group?
And play with their friends.
Potentially.
But, and right now, we allow that. If there's a 10U that's better,
For,
tries out, they can make that team and
You could
and
play
bump
it.
someone
Yeah.
right now.
okay,
So that's not necessarily new.
okay. I wasn't sure, I couldn't remember.
Do we have to pay per kid that tries out? Is that how the tryouts work? Or do we just pay for the
You just get the tryout,
process?
the tryout's included if they,
I think it's a base fee, but
Okay.
it's probably based on how many 4 hours of evaluation time, probably, or whatever it is.
I think we just pay them a check and buy some pizza. They're the evaluators.
But if we had, let's just say, we had to double their time,
It'd be 2 pizzas and double the pay.
okay, yeah. But not sure that that's going to happen, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, I don't know, and if this is more like the more motivated kids that are like, no, I really wanna move up, then it's probably, maybe it's a non-issue then, anyway.
Like, I think in the past, I think there was one that played up this year. From 10, could have played 10U, played 12U, or, yeah, one. And it's kind of been like 1 or 2 each year. And it just based on the layout of the team or the player's skill or whatever, I think they've always made it. So it hasn't been a big deal yet.
Yeah, so
But-
then let's not restrict it then, in my opinion, if it hasn't been an issue, then,
they've
Why
never
would we make
tried
it
out
issue?
for, been able to try out for both.
Not for both.
Never been.
They,
able to try
they
out.
chose to try out for 12U,
They-
and they made
took
it
that
because they
risk.
were,
so that's how it
they
has
had a
been.
pretty
Yeah,
good
yeah.
idea.
You
they
take,
were
you
gonna-
choose which one and you take the risk that you're gonna
Yeah,
make that team.
right.
Cause if you don't, you're not on.
And so,
Travel team.
like, I guess my point is we have never had to make that decision, really.
Yeah.
It's just kind of been like, that's the one they're choosing. I'm okay either, like, I totally understand. And so I'm not completely against allowing that double tryout.
Can I ask, what like stop do you have in place of, a kid signing up for the 12U tryout and then signing up for the 10U tryout and just showing up? Like, is it just whoever setting up the tryouts, seeing the name and being like, well,
Yeah.
you can't do this?
Trey. Trey had
Yeah.
a list of who was signed up, I'm guessing, I believe, because he was checking them in, so I'm pretty sure he did. Or was supposed to, and, yeah, we never had any issue, I don't.
No, I don't.
I would just say that you're only gonna hurt your 10U team. Baseball's gonna get played, you know what I'm not worried about my kid getting to play baseball. Again, for me, I do think people look at the city of Lennox and say, geez, those guys have won 2 state championships in youth baseball. I've got kids that love baseball. We're living in a town that they could care less about youth baseball. We know we're moving anyway, that's a great place to put roots down. I want my kid to help Lennox win championships. And if you can't do it with a 12U team, because that's what's gonna push you, it's not just my kid, there's other kids, and there'll be kids after this too, but you're just going to hurt that younger team by limiting those kids that could come back down. And again, I don't see it as a punishment to my kids, I just wanna make that clear, or other kids that are in my kids' boat. He's gonna play plenty of baseball. It might be in a Lennox jersey, it might not be in a Lennox jersey. He'll play plenty of baseball, so that's not a big deal. But as a dad, and just kind of what we teach in our other sports that we do coach, playing for Lennox should matter, and it should mean something to you. It should be special, and you should do everything in your power to do it over going to Sioux Falls and playing for somebody. It should mean something to play for your hometown team, and that's what I feel like we're limiting in this deal. Not my kid aside, yes, my kid's in that situation, there's other kids in that situation as well. I just want kids to play for Lennox as much as possible.
So off of what you just said, would it not be then you would encourage your kid to stick with his age group and make that the best 10U age group and make that team win championships? Instead of knock that 10U team down because your kid has aspirations to go higher. I'm not saying you're in particular, you know, I'm just.
Yes, and that's the balancing act as a parent that I have is, I want my kid to be as good as they possibly can.
You know?
My kid's not stupid. He knows he can probably show up and have a pulse right now and make the 10U team. He knows he's gonna have to work his tail off to make the 12U team. And that is a great motivating factor that dad can't give him by chewing his butt and kicking him in the pants, that I want that for my kid to say, yes, be motivated.
But
have
is
this
he-
competition.
Is he as motivated if he knows he's gonna be on the 10U team anyway, as opposed to if he's trying for the 12 and if he doesn't make it, he's not on a team, that's pretty motivating. You got a backup plan with the 10U that you don't, you always know that that's there. I guess the big thing for me would be, if you're going up, if you could.
It's sorry to interrupt. To answer
Yeah, go ahead.
He will not know about the backup plan. That's the problem.
You might hear at school.
Unless he watches this on YouTube, but he's not gonna know about the backup plan until the day of. So that's just.
I guess it's always been this way, that one stayed that way. My son had to go through it too, he stayed down one year, when he had the younger birthday. But I feel like if you're gonna go up and potentially take an older kid's spot, you gotta put something on the line. If you could stay down at 10U, but you're going up to 12U, you might take the kid's spot there, then you gotta kinda put something on the line a little bit. You gotta kinda choose, and that's how it's always been, you choose one. I don't know what the right answer is, but I feel like, there's gonna be a lot of stuff going on there, potentially, that we haven't had before, and it's never been that way, so, I don't know, it's a tough one. I'm not sure what the right answer is.
I'm kind of like, I don't have a dog in the fight, so I don't necessarily care one way or the other on this one, I guess.
Well, do we want, we could always revisit, is that what we're hung up on though? Is that
Probably.
one part?
Yeah.
Could we revisit just that part and make a motion on what we do know, or is that not?
I think this group needs to figure out what they want to do and make a decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't need to kick it down the road anymore. Because it's not gonna change next month. It's gonna be exactly the same. Nothing will be different.
Okay, so, does anyone wanna make a motion on a particular part of this, removing or adding, and we can make a vote based on that? So what did
Here are the
we-
changes that I've noted so far. Change the language to within the district boundary, outside the boundary with approval of park board. No tournament teams decided by the park board based on the number of tryouts. Those are the two notes that I've made.
Did we decide on 11 or 12 players per team?
11 it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I heard 11 more than
Thanks,
12. 11, that would be my
Works for
vote.
me.
And that makes it, you know, if
And then
they're
that's
for
a
the
double
two-team
team,
thing,
yeah.
it's less numbers to make two teams if that's a
Yeah.
possibility, so.
Then, so,
With 3 alternates?
That's what we have in there.
Okay.
Right?
now, as an alternate, if I'm on the B team, I'm actually an alternate of the A team though, right?
If there is a team.
Yeah, like, okay.
So, but we
You're gonna
want,
have
we
to
want
pick
the
alternates for each team.
we want the alternates to practice with the A team. You can't practice with the B team and practice with the A team. If you're an alternate, you're with the A team. You practice with the A team, you go with the A team, you're with the A team.
Or they practice together.
Depends. Some coaches don't want that. You can't just assume that that's gonna, you know.
And
Well,
this is, I
I
think, one of
think-
those things that it's like a what if, that we just kind of leave alone.
It's a single tournament that they might move
Yeah,
up.
so the 3 backups was done based on the fact that there was going to be one team.
Mhm.
I think if you're going to have more than one team,
Then you don't
combine
have 3
pull up
backups.
from the next
Yeah.
team.
Then you don't have 3 backups. Then you just pull up from the next team.
Yeah,
Yep.
yep.
that's-
Okay. In the
And you
event
could,
have
and
two
you could,
teams.
and you could pull up any player from that next team based on the need. So if you need a pitcher, you pull up a pitcher. If you need a catcher, you pull up a catcher. So you don't limit them on, you only have to pull up the top, you know, if you go off on the things. Well, this, the top next down, because if you need an outfielder, you're not gonna pull up a catcher. It doesn't make sense.
Like 2 or 3 that were.
So you gotta leave that up to the discretion of the manager, then I think.
All right, so we've got those things. Does anyone want to make a motion based on those or any more changes before?
Did we add the disciplinary, you
Oh,
mentioned that, Nate,
Um,
for the.
There's not real clear language. It's for violations of the code of ethics,
Okay,
and that's pretty vague.
So I think we wanted to
I
see.
think you could add to that in violation of these policies.
Yes.
yeah.
I can read off what that says. So there's a section on coaches and volunteers. We talked a little bit about coach and volunteer expectations and removal, but that's for violation of the code of ethics as investigated and found by a rec manager or city administrator. I'd like to change that for this in particular, and that's something we'll tackle then. The code of ethics says, number of bullet points about behavior, what they'll refrain from. Failure to abide by the code of ethics may result in following penalties, and this is for anybody involved in the programs. First violation is a warning, second is suspension from the program for 1 full season, third is permanent dismissal, Lennox Park and Rec programs. But certain violations may constitute immediate and permanent dismissal.
That's for, we're talking players? I mean, you said it's
That's for
everyone.
everyone, and then there's language in chapter 8 about coaches violating can be removed. I think we just add to that violating the code of ethics or violating these policies.
Yep. Agreed.
We're putting that to the every.
It'll be a change in a different chapter, but,
Oh, okay.
but it'll apply to,
yeah, we'll probably, so,
this kid isn't padding this game because of that.
right.
Okay.
What I'll do is when like I said, there's a couple other pieces of this that I think need to be cleaned up later on in the chapter. When I take this to council for final approval, we'll include those things in that version.
So are we gonna, I'm sorry, are we gonna put a little blurb with this during regular season play, coaches must allow? Is there something you're saying that we would just add unless they're in violation of the policies and procedures? On,
First read
yeah.
after
first
the-
paragraph right here.
For the roster batting. and the
Roster
playing.
batting and the three outs on the field.
Okay, so your question was Can you repeat that?
So I'm wondering if we want to put something about, whatever, the exception would be that, whatever. Trying to think. of how you
Refer
would
to
put it.
paragraph.
Unless
Or-
player is in violation of code of ethics, in which case the coach can choose to sit them, or I don't know, I'm not sure how you would put it in policy terms, but. Or do we not, is it, because it's referred to in some other area, it's fine?
Well, it's not referred to for, it's referred to for coaches, not for,
That's what I mean.
athletes.
Could you say it's something that?
I think you could just keep it fairly, but, you know, if the athlete is,
Under disciplinary action.
is
At
as
coach's
determined by a
discretion.
coach.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you just leave it up to the coach.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have any coaches that are gonna apply that
No,
punitively,
no.
no,
so.
yep, I think that would be
Under
something.
disciplinary action by the coach,
Yeah.
Right,
then they can decide if they're gonna play.
And that could be not showing up for practice, that could be anything. There could be,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that coaches have disciplinary action.
yep, I think I'd like to see that.
That lets the coaches decide
Yeah.
what that is.
Okay. Before I send this to the council for approval, I'll just make sure I send it out to everybody.
See it,
Um,
the final. version.
Individually reply back, do not reply all. ever.
Right.
And just make sure that, you know, if there is something, just reply back, that we maybe missed something, but I try and go back and watch these meetings to make sure we're getting everything, so.
So the last thing that we haven't decided on, right, is the tryouts for more than one team?
No, I figured,
Officially?
no, we talked about 2 teams.
The
No,
number of
no,
teams,
no, tryouts.
For a 12
Oh,
year.
age
and a
group.
10.
Oh,
Age
that,
Age groups.
number of teams they can try out for.
Yep. And again, we're just gonna make a decision, because otherwise we're just gonna keep
Right.
talking about it. So,
is anybody adamantly in favor or adamantly against? Or is everybody just,
Can we do that?
What?
Pretty much make a
you can say,
informal vote?
well, no, that's what I'm saying, if you're in favor of it, just say, I'm in favor of them only trying out for one. You can say how you feel. I'm not saying you're making your motion.
Yeah, it's not a motion, so we
Yeah.
can discuss where
I
it's
just
gonna
didn't
be,
know.
no matter.
do you just wanna go down the table then?
Yeah,
So, Clint,
I think they could try out for as many as they want, I don't
Okay.
care.
I'm open to that.
Yeah, I don't really have a preference one way or the other.
I'm not opposed to them trying to more than one, I mean, let's let her buck and see what happens.
I would agree. As a parent, like, you want the best for your kid, and so you're gonna always push them.
Yep.
And if they don't make it, then you're gonna take them somewhere else, so why not let them continue to play in Lennox?
See how it goes, I don't think it's been done before, so we'll find out.
Well, I'm
Has it
just
been done
looking
in the
at the
past?
changes that are proposed, and I mean, most of them are going back to what they were.
Yeah,
So we
I
would
think it's
just,
just worth noting that.
yep,
we would just strike out, in the event an athlete is eligible for 2 groups, we're just striking that.
We'll strike that.
Okay,
Okay? Then based on that, does anyone want to make a motion?
I will motion to approve the changes in the policy as we just described.
that Nate wrote down.
And it was 11 players, 3.
Yeah, 11 players. I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Right?
Any opposed?
Claire, did you second?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on, concessions.
This was written before I kind of made the call to just make a full-time position, so I think.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Probably going to combine that effort with this. It is going to cost us money to hire employees to do this, but I do think there's a possibility that we actually gain some revenue this way. So, the first year we won't be able to see a net gain because we'll have to put in Wi-Fi and buy the POS. But,
And you gotta work through the hiccups.
So I wouldn't expect to make any money the first year, but it's entirely possible that beyond that you do.
I like
If
it.
all you have is one employee and you have a couple volunteers for each concession stand, you know, one employee at this concession stand, one at the other, that's their job. You know, and
But, I mean, I like it because you have one person there who knows what's going on and can keep things running the way they're supposed to. And then the volunteers can help out
Keep
as,
stuff from moving out the windows.
yes,
Keep inventory.
right. I think that's, I'm for it, I think it is. Because that's the one thing I hear from parents who are volunteering is, it's just chaos.
They don't know what to do.
Right,
they don't know
it's,
what's
because
expected.
it's different from every person that goes in there and be like, well, I did it this way.
Yeah.
I volunteered here
Yeah.
last week, I did it this way, well.
Well, the cheese is still on from last night. Perfect.
If
It's
sign
happened.
says you're supposed
I've
to
helped
make
Kelly
it.
Oh, well, whatever.
I think it's easier to move in this direction too versus going to outsourcing, because once you go to outsourcing, it's a lot harder to kind of reel it back
It
in.
can be,
And then
yeah.
if we give this a shot, and then if it doesn't work,
Yeah.
go to
Like I said,
outsourcing.
it'll probably cost us money the first year, but, you know, we can at least have a good taste for, you know, at that point, we'll have a good idea for what the true expenses are and what the true revenue is going to be, so.
And if we have tournaments and stuff, that keeps need, I mean, there's a lot of volunteers for tournaments, and that would maybe, we know we have 2 people at least, or whatever it is.
And we probably hire more than that, just so we can rotate through, just, you know.
And tournaments aren't usually that hard to fill, it's your normal league nights is when
Yep.
people usually have that's when you have your issues.
Amateur and legion games have even gotten challenging, so.
And just like from experience, it makes it difficult with 2 kids playing ball and then trying to work around their schedules,
To
especially.
volunteer at other games.
Yeah, to like pick a game and then like,
Yeah.
but.
I mean, and the system works at the pool, you know, as a guinea pig, the POS buying stuff. If you use that same,
Oh, we'll use the same points.
right,
Yeah.
so I mean, so I think it would work, I just,
It'd definitely be helpful, nice addition to have.
and hardly anybody carries cash, so the ability to use a card, I think your revenues will increase. 'Cause
Yeah.
the amount of people that I've seen come back from softball games going, oh, they only take cash,
Yeah,
there's
Yeah.
quite a few.
We'll have folks walk over to the pool during a baseball game to get some concessions because they got a card.
Yeah.
that would be huge.
Do you want to vote on this at all, or is it just informational? Okay. All right, then I think,
Motion to adjourn?
all right.
That's second,
All
We're
in
done with
favor?
tournament teams?
Sorry, Nate.
Thank you.
Done for now.
Whoops, I got
I got another
it.
one for you.
Okay.
I think those guys will probably be happy, kind of a middle. Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Yeah, good job,
Have a
thanks.
good